Welcome back, everybody. It's Rodrigo Fonador with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. Kind of staying in theme with this month is we're going to be talking about property management, tenant-landlord relationships, and if you've got rentals, hopefully these conversations are helping you get some good insight and just have some ideas of what people here in Asheville are doing, what they did to navigate all of this, and what to expect. So today I'm being joined by Al, I'm so sorry. I always mess up your name. Al Sartorelli. He was actually back on episode 95 where we talked about how to buy rental properties as investments. So we brought him back on the show today to explore and just talk a little bit about how they managed the whole COVID situation, how you communicate with tenants, how to communicate with the property owners, and some different things to just navigate this whole situation. So help me welcome Al into the show. Hope you guys enjoy the conversation. As always, if you do, please share it. Leave us a rating. Leave us a review. It'd really mean a lot to us. So thank you, and take care. Enjoy the talk. Hey, well, welcome back to the show, Al. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I think, maybe people who've listened to the show for a while will remember you, but maybe we got some new listeners who are on the show. Do you mind just giving the 30-second, 60-second backdrop of who you are, what you do, and whatnot?
Sure. I am a property manager. I specialize in investment real estate. That's buying, selling, managing, and developing for profit. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to purchase a home, rent it out, make sure that you're making money, be right up front about it. And, or if you're looking to purchase, renovate, and then sell in the future for equity, that's kind of where my niche is. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I've got about 425 tenants, and I manage about 175 units on a daily basis. So.
Yeah, we have a lot less than that. I still feel like I get gray hairs almost on a bi-monthly basis, if you will. At least a couple of times a year, there's that like one incident comes up with having rental properties that you're just like, how are we going to get through this one well? Right. And part of that, perfect example is everything that happened with COVID. And it's just kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today, or right now, I guess, is just explore like what to do and like how did you come out of it and everything. So maybe do you want to maybe just start, and I can chime in too a little bit as far as like when you realized that COVID was going to be something you guys have to address, and then maybe how you all addressed it from a property management perspective, and maybe do you think like the light is at the end of the tunnel, or what's next? How's June look? Well, I guess this will come out in mid-June. So how is June, July looking?
So it's a lot better because it's not new anymore. And, I dare to speak for everyone that when something bad happens, the anticipation and the newness of it was probably a lot worse than the actuality of it. Mm-hmm. June's looking a lot better in property management and rental markets. We're feeling pretty strong about it. We're still cautiously optimistic. But the beginning was just as scary for us as it was for the tenants. We were not only going through the same problems as them, not knowing what's going on with their job, whether we'd still get paid, how we were going to pay our bills, but then we were worrying about this massive amount of tenants that were very worried, and some were affected a lot more than us in the hospitality business, and then all of the clients of those homes. So it was compounded. On top of being new, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to get through it, writing new operating procedures basically every day.
Yeah.
So June is like a cakewalk now.
Oh, the hard part's been addressed now.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, as long as we don't have a relapse of this, and I think there's going to be a little bit of income fluctuation between when the the aid checks stop, and the part-time work isn't quite full-time yet. And, restaurants aren't hiring back everybody immediately.
Right.
So I think there's still going to be a little gap, but we've weathered the worst of it, I think, in the business. So I think the easy stuff's coming.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. It's definitely been a lot of newness, and hopefully we can kind of go back to for property management. I mean, this is not one of those industry disruptors that you look at and be like, well, good, like fine, this sucks, but at least we're going to figure out a way to like improve things in our business. Like, I don't think there's a way to really have a ton of like foundational like differences to the way you work with people as far as providing housing and whatnot. Have you noticed anything that maybe this brought to light where you're like, like this is interesting, this is maybe worth implementing moving forward?
When I came into the business, in my little ecosystem of property management, I was trained very quickly to take feelings out of it. Mm-hmm. Because you're dealing with other humans and there's a lot of emotion, and their housing is very important, if not vital, or the most vital part of their existence.
Yeah, of course.
And so if you get emotional about these things, you're more apt to not make the appropriate judgment calls for your clients. Sort of like if a cop pulls you over for committing a crime and the cop feels bad for you, he may be more apt to let you go, right? So it's not quite the same thing as that, but it's the empathy. So we've been able to add empathy into what we do now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In the beginning, there wasn't a lot of that. Now there's a little more of that. Does that make sense?
Total makes sense. So to rephrase, if I'm not like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would it be a fair summary to say that before there's a lot more just like transactional side of the business was like, look, you can either pay rent or you can't. If you can't, then XYZ is going to happen. And then now it's a little bit more humane as far as like, hey, like, let's talk. What are we doing? Like, how do we work with you? Like, I mean, is that an unfair summary?
Yeah, that's way more eloquent than I'm not that great at describing it. But yes, exactly. It was more of a you do this and we do that situation. It's transactional. You pay rent, we provide the housing, we fix the stuff. If it's your fault, you pay for it. There was very little emotion. This has allowed the emotion to kind of come into property management, at least at our company. We started doing care calls where I was just going down the list of tenants, starting at the A and going all the way down and just calling them and saying, how are you? Rodrigo, I don't even care about your rent or what you've paid or what you can't pay. Let's not talk about money. Just, are you getting through this? And that seemed to help a lot, to be able to make a connection with tenants and let them connect with us a little bit as well. So we're not just the evil landlord that they have to pay rent to every month.
Yeah, because like as a property manager, you're in a tough spot, right? Because the tenants are not the people that you're representing or supposed to take care of, right? Like it's the property owners. I just want to clarify, right?
That's right. Our clients is the property owner. Our customer is the tenant. Yeah. So they are owed, in the legal sense or the real estate sense, the agency sense, they're owed honesty and disclosure of material facts and all of those things that a customer is due. But anything more than that, in property management, you typically don't get. Yeah. This has allowed a little more of that to happen.
And is that something that you think you're going to carry forward? And like, is it scalable? Because I think you said 400 some tenants. Like, is it sustainable to call 400 people multiple times a year to just sit down and do that?
No, man. I think that a lot of it can be automated. I know it's not as personable as a person calling you and saying, hey, how you doing? But our systems are set up so that we can allow them to send out emails as needed to touch base with people. And then the responses come to me. So most of the people that I call probably don't have anything. They're like, I'm doing good. Don't worry about it. We're getting through it. The wife's, going back to work, or I'm just getting back to work. And it's a very short phone call. So for the people that really have something important to translate over to me, if they respond back to an email, all of that will come directly to my desk. And get attention.
And we'll kind of move on a little bit. But I was curious, did you have one conversation where like made all of the short, conversations that didn't feel worth it?
Absolutely. I had a good amount of tenants just happy that I called.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, they were just ecstatic. They thought it was really cool that we were reaching out just to say hi and not talk about rent. Of course, inevitably the conversation always does that.
hard to avoid that. Yeah.
There were some that were really happy. We found out some really important facts about people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to offer aid to people who didn't know what to do.
Cool.
It was an opportunity for us to say, hey, listen, this is what all the other tenants are doing. You're welcome to try it. I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I had a couple of questions I just wanted to run through, and full disclosure for everybody who's tuning in and listening, like Al has no idea what I'm about to ask. So if there's anything that you don't have the information, or it's not something that like it's fair for you to answer, then just we'll move past it really quickly. But for the month of June, we're kind of focusing a little bit on like landlord tenant relationships as far as on the podcast goes,
Sure.
Just because it kind of came to head in a really interesting way. But so I was wondering, is like, when you look back in April, May, do you know like what percentage of your tenants paid in full, give or take? Like, I know it's an off the cuff answer as far as the people or the properties you manage.
Yeah. So of the tenants that are still with us, only one owes us. One owes us an extreme amount of money of back rent, and a second one owes us a few $100s.
Okay.
Our collection rates were around 95% by 10 days into the month. The first month was a lot rougher. Yeah, March, when it first hit, it took about 3 weeks for everyone to catch up.
Gotcha.
The next month, the check started rolling. People got caught up a lot faster, and now we're back to kind of where we were.
So,
the only issues that we're having with tenants were financial issues that they were having prior to COVID.
Gotcha. And so you anticipate June being a pretty normal month then, as far as collections go and everything?
Yep. We've had a couple tenants that couldn't afford to pay rent, and they called up and said, listen, we don't want to even go in the hole. We'd like to move back in with our parents for a while. Will you let us out of our lease? And our clients were totally fine with that. We've re-rented the houses and allowed them to do what they needed to do to get through their situation.
Okay, cool. No, it's a good fit. Do you, I mean, other than people like, do you have any idea of how many of your tenant base were like directly affected by COVID? Like they had a job at a restaurant or anything like that? Because I know on our end, it was a pretty small amount. I'm not sure how or why that happened. Just, I guess, coincidence or we got lucky or whatnot, but it was only like a small percentage. I'd say like, I think 5, 6, 7%, something like that. It was definitely less than 10%.
Yeah, I don't know it for a fact. I haven't verified the information, but we didn't have a lot of people. There was a small amount of people, smaller than what we expected.
Yeah.
And almost all of them were hospitality based, but all of them recovered very quickly. Some of them had some savings to carry them through. Some of them were able to recover fast.
Right.
I don't have the exact percentage. I thought it would be a lot worse than it was.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that on our end too. It seemed to, all things considered, is pretty smooth sailing once kind of the initial like surprise and chaos died down.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, one of the things we did early on, we just kind of sent a letter, and I think we talked about this actually just offline as just one of our, as far as like, hey, like, here are resources, just trying to be proactive in that communication. It's something we've never really done before in the past, and I think it's something we're going to try to think about, figure out how to keep that in place. Like, how do you be proactive with communication versus just like reactive? Did you notice that as well, or are you guys going to carry that through in any way, or?
Well, communication, in my opinion, is key to any bad circumstance. If you owe somebody money, it doesn't have to be rent. You can just owe your buddy $50. It's always easier if you call them and tell them you don't have it, than letting them try to find you 3 weeks later and making an excuse. So I like open communication. I like talking to my customers, my tenants. Knowing what's going on in their lives allows me to better prepare for the future, especially when it comes to rent. If I know that there's going to be an issue coming up for you in the next couple of months, I can prep my client for it. I can make the road easier and hopefully let us get through it in a positive way for everybody.
Right.
I know communication between other property managers is something that's huge, that just increased dramatically in my life. I've got a lot of coworkers in the industry, but we started doing video calls like this once a week. Was it once a week or once a month? We did it for like 2 weeks straight, and then we went to once a month because we really the last thing a property manager wants to do is hear everyone else's horror stories. But we were able to kind of figure this out together. Suddenly, all of the other property managers that were in our little group, it wasn't all of them, but about 5 or 6 companies, we were able to say, this is how much rent we've collected, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're handling something. And it allowed us to, instead of being so stressed out about it, realize that there were some other solutions that were working for people and adopt those for ourselves.
Was there a specific solution that came out of that, like little mastermind sessions that you felt like something really unique, or was it pretty much, it's kind of like straightforward things? Or it was just like, oh, okay, like let's go do it.
Yeah, I mean, so the National Association of Residential Property Managers, NARPM, is a national group that we're a member of. And that really helped as well, because their lawyers started putting out some paperwork. So when a tenant, it helped us develop procedures. Because in my world, with so many tenants and so many things happening and so many repairs being ordered and renovations being done and clients coming on and clients leaving, I need order to my chaos. So if you call me and tell me that you lost your job due to COVID and you may be short on rent, they developed forms that we could send out that you'd fill out, and that would trigger the next step, which is us alerting the owner. And all of those things were developed together. Cool. We didn't just come into work one day and figure it out on our own. We were able to kind of group brainstorm it. And most people were really happy with it. So.
No, I think I agree. It's like communication. That's the one thing we always kept telling her was like, if there's something going on and you talk to us about it ahead of time, then we can work on it together. If you don't tell us anything, then we have to shoot in the dark trying to figure out what's going on and make at best educated guesses. And they're not going to be as good as if we come up with something together. Right. So work with us here.
Well, we are all in this together on different levels. To somebody, you're affecting somebody's paycheck. And I'm affecting somebody's paycheck. I mean, economically, we're all kind of part of this.
Yeah, it's what's the there's that word in it, a symbiotic relationship, right? I think that's what it is, right? Well, let's touch on a little bit more of a challenging topic to talk about, and that's evictions.
Sure.
So today's the 29th of May. Evictions start opening up on Monday again, as far as them being heard. I know evictions could have been filed up to this point.
Yes.
I don't know if you're allowed to say if you have any pending or anything like that. I'm just curious to know if you have anything that you're anticipating going to court for in the next month.
Sure. Anything that is pending was an issue prior to COVID. Okay. Have not threatened legal action. We've actually been very upfront with our tenants saying we're not charging late fees. We're not even going to send you a letter saying that you're late. You're late. We're not going to call you every week and ask you what's good. We're going to let you know, but you got to get this squared up. My biggest concern has been for a couple tenants that have gotten themselves in a hole that they may not be able to claw back out of.
Yeah, those are always tough.
Just knowing what I know about their income and being friendly with a lot of my tenants, it's a scary thought. So the short answer is I don't have any court appearances planned for anyone.
Good.
The courts do open up on the 2nd, and that's going to change some things too, because some clients, some landlords may not be as heartfelt or as understanding or as open to working with tenants for much longer, especially as people start getting back to work and things start to normalize. Now a client can call me and tell me, listen, they owe money, they haven't paid, I want them out.
Time to make it happen. Yeah,
and inevitably I work for them. So,
it's like in May and April, the threat of an eviction didn't have much weight because it felt so far away. But now we're getting into that point where you can go file it. And who knows how far out the courts are going to be, but it's probably not going to be too far out.
Yeah. It's probably be about a month and a half. But it's become normalized. People aren't as, scared of it anymore. In the very beginning, everyone was do your part, wear a mask, don't make sure you're social distancing. And now you walk into a grocery store and 1 out of 3 people are wearing a mask, and, things are starting to get back to normal and getting normalized. So
I would say a different vibe in the air for sure.
Yeah, if anybody's running behind, I would definitely start shifting focus heavier on getting caught up. because right now you still got some time to pay a little extra every month until it compiles. The other thing we're doing right now is we're not renewing leases.
At all for anybody, or?
I'm not doing walkthroughs. I'm not gonna, I have no problem hanging out with a couple of my close friends and going to the grocery store and wearing a mask and doing my part. But I don't really want to walk through 175 homes that I don't live in with people that I don't know aren't sick, or they don't know I'm sick.
That's fair. So when you say you're not doing walkthroughs, is that like something normally that you would do? You just walk your units to make sure they're in good order, and you're not doing that now? Or
sure,
it's because I guess I'm not seeing the correlation between not renewing leases and not doing
awesome. Yeah. So in order to renew a lease, I come out and do a walkthrough of the property. Gotcha. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to take pictures of everything, and I'm going to upload it to the internet for the owner to see, to their owner portal. Yeah. So that way I don't have owners asking what their house looks like after 5 years of a tenant in there. Every year they get to see it. Gotcha. So we're doing it for two reasons. One, obviously to make sure the tenant hasn't trashed it or is in keeping it in good order.
Right.
And if there are some small issues, we can bring them up and address them. And the other one is to check on deferred maintenance. During long-term stays, paint starts to wear, carpet starts to fade, wood floors get scuffed up. So we can make the owner aware of any big costs coming up when you finally decide to move out. We can already be prepared for a full paint job.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Stay ahead of the curve a little bit.
Yeah, so we do that. And then once we do that, we'll verify income, and then we'll write the new lease.
Interesting.
So because that walkthrough part's missing, we've kind of stopped. And this is coming into busy season. Almost all of our leases are going to expire and roll into month-to-month leases here shortly.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, they automatically go month-to-month without anyone giving notice on the same terms. And I'm hoping that more things will come to light with COVID, and we'll be able to, and if we can't do walkthroughs, then we'll have to just write a new protocol for it. And maybe we have the tenants take some pictures and send them in. And try our best to get those leases renewed.
And are your tenants good with not signing leases? Because I know for us it's about 50-50, maybe a little bit like 60-40, but we definitely have like a small percentage that anytime the lease comes up, they're like, hey, we're ready to sign a new lease. Can we do that? Can we do that? Are you getting those requests and you're just having to turn them down?
Well, I've had a couple. We do have a few people like that are definitely more proactive of getting in a lease. They understand the value.
Yeah.
Especially in Asheville, where owners can decide they're going to sell their palace at any moment for millions of dollars, right? So
yeah, those palaces go.
Those palaces, yes, they do. So I've had a few, but my standard response is that we're not asking you to leave. We don't want you to go. You're paying, especially if you're paid up on rent and you're making efforts and everything. Mm-hmm. We're not concerned about asking to leave, but we're just not going to renew the leases yet. We're waiting to see what's happening with COVID. And most people understand that that's a legitimate excuse. We're not trying to leave you in a month to month because we want to ask you to leave later.
Right. It just is what it is.
Yeah, and it may also work out for some of the tenants that may not be able to catch up. They don't find themselves in a position where they're stuck in a lease if they find another place to go, or they can give us notice. I'm hoping that won't last very long. I'm hoping in the next month we'll figure out how to attack that. Because not only is it important to keep people in leases, it's important beyond that. It's important for owners to be able to verify income for investments. They got to show that lease. We get paid to renew leases. Right. So there's a big economic factor of it as well.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you mentioned that. It's a big deal. I know. We're pretty proactive on our end. If people don't reach out to us, we're like, hey, are you guys ready to sign a new lease yet? Like,
well, normally we are. This time of year, we're calling people, setting up walkthroughs, doing lease renewals, and we're pretty forceful about it. Like if you don't call me back or you're ducking the lease renewal for some reason, we're just going to come out and do the walkthrough. And we normally have 5 or 6 tenants that'll be a little more contentious about it. But it's one of those things that's going to happen because it's an income source for many people along the chain.
Right.
Most of the time,
got to take it seriously here. Yeah.
Yeah. Tenants are just worried normally about rent increases. The ones that don't push for that lease renewal, that's because they're typically, in my experience, the first question out of their mouth when I finally get a hold of them is, well, how much is rent going to go up?
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't go up at all.
Sometimes.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, Al, any closing thoughts, just in general about life, the market, real estate, renting?
I don't know what the market's going to do going forward. I think I'm still renting houses. If you check my site today, there's not a single one available. We rented them all. They're still moving. They're still booking showings when I have them out there. So there are still people active.
Right.
And I hope
our experience as well.
I think it'll stay that way just out of necessity. I'm excited to see a little more communication and better landlord relationships. And I'm kind of excited that in the very beginning, a lot of the stress too came from a lot of extreme reaction to not paying rent, or to some of the pushes on different social media platforms were very far to that side. Like there was no middle ground, there was no communication. And I'm glad that we were able to surpass that and come through the other side without having any of those big battles of people refusing to pay rent and then courts opening up. And that was a nightmare for me. I was very scared that I would have to evict people that were very extreme about not paying
about it or whatever. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not what I'm in this business for. It's not to throw people out. It's to keep people in. We want you to stay. It makes my job easier if I don't have to keep re-renting your house.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good thing that we have not gotten there, and hopefully we won't. It's definitely the ripple effect of that would not be positive in any way.
Well, I think this year we're going to, after COVID's kind of, when I say this year now, I realize that maybe it's going to be next year by the time it actually happens. But I've been working on a first-time homebuyer package, which I know you're going to endorse because how much you love people buying homes instead of renting. But we're going to try to help our tenants a little more with not just renting a house, but if your goal is to buy a house in the next 2 years, let's not just rent you a house. Let's rent you a house, put you in a program so that way you know what you need to do with your credit and mortgage. So that way we can also transition you into home ownership because there's no shortage of tenants.
I would love to have a whole separate conversation about that once you get that ready to be rolled out. I have opinions and thoughts around that, and it's not a right or wrong thing. It's so much personal preference, but I think it's super cool that you guys are trying to create stepping stones for people who value that and think that that's important to them, instead of just being like, hey, well, when you figure it out, cool. Instead of just being like, hey, here's a path. If you follow these steps, we'll walk you with you the whole way. That's awesome. So let's definitely circle back around and have that conversation.
I think we can do property management better. And I think if anything comes out of this, it's going to be that relationship where we're not just taking rent money and then see you when you give us notice. We can carry that relationship into the future.
Yeah, no, I think, figuring out how to add value other than just, hey, here's a roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Al, how do people connect with you if they, enjoyed our conversation, want to reach out to you and work with you, rent from you, or hire you to manage their properties? Yeah, man. On Facebook, Al Sartorelli Real Estate. Instagram, Al Sartorelli Real Estate. Its website's 828homesales.com. All of those will get in touch with me. My personal Facebook, I deleted that at the beginning of COVID. And it's been the best change I have ever made in my life. It's up there with moving to Asheville. Wow. It's been incredible. I check Facebook like once every couple weeks now when I'm doing my business end. But it's been nice just to get away from that drama. And so if you message me on my personal account, it won't happen. Yeah, but I'm on all the platforms or Alpha Real Estate. Just Google me. You'll find me. Cool. Al, well, thanks so much for taking the time, man. Hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, Rodrigo. You too. All right. Take care. Bye.